Welcome to Playbook Radio. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and we do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. All the links to the podcast can be found at gameplanplaybook.com. That's gameplanplaybook.com. And you can also follow me on Substack, and that link will be in the description as well. So today I wanted to share something with you that I literally just found out about maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. So this is up to the minute news. And that is that NFL coaches spend 85 to 100 hours a week in game planning for a 3 to 4 hour game. Now, some people might have known this, and, obviously that's great. I mean, I just found out about it, but I just found it interesting that they would spend that amount of time planning for a 3 to 4 hour game. And that's an average number, meaning that there are some coaches who plan even more. Now, for context, we all know that there are only 168 hours a week for all of us. No matter who you are, you only have 168 hours a week. So to spend 100 of it in planning alone is pretty insane to me. But I think it points something out that's vital. If you want to be a success in whatever it is that you're trying to do, and certainly I understand the value and the importance of game planning in my line of work, you've got to plan, and you have to have a detailed plan, and you've got to be prepared. And there's really no limit, in my view, of how much hours you should spend in game planning. Now, obviously, I'm not telling you to spend 100 hours in game planning because I don't do that, okay? I have to spend 40 just working, and then I spend another 40 sleeping, give or take, and then there's the rest of my life with family, health, relaxation, rest, whatever. But what I want you to get is these are billion-dollar organizations. Each NFL team is worth at least $1 billion, right? And they generate billions of dollars in our economy, in the local economy, and the national economy. NFL is big business. So if they value game planning to that level, why aren't you valuing it to maybe not that level, but valuing it at some point, right? Because there are so many parts of our life that can benefit from planning, whether it's work, if it's a business, if you're a business owner, if you're an athlete, if you're a student, you're a homemaker, whatever you're doing that's taking up the bulk of your time, do you have a plan? The most successful people I know are planners, right? I knew a guy once who, every time he and his family went on a trip, he had an itinerary created. Now, there were, adults, his wife, his grown children, there were adults on the trip with him, but he made a point to make an itinerary for the entire family, whether you were an adult or a child. And the reason he did that is because he knew intuitively, or maybe even consciously, I never talked to him about it per se, but he knew that if there was any part that wasn't planned or taken care of in the plan, you're inviting chaos, you're inviting disorder, you're inviting things to go wrong, right? People who plan, they understand that if I don't have a plan for a situation, I'm leaving things up to chance. And why take a chance with something that matters, right? Why take a chance with something that's important? Okay. These NFL coaches, they work years to get in that position. Most coaches to make it to the NFL have been coaching on average about 20 years. I haven't looked that up, but I know that just watching the sport as long as I have, most of these guys got started coaching pretty much out of college. Some are former players, and some, you know, they made the transition from playing to coaching. But on average, you're looking about 20 to 30 years to get to an NFL job, right? So once they get there, and there's only a handful of them, a handful of jobs, that is. Once you get there, well, for one, you want to keep it, right? And the way that you keep it is to win games. If you don't win games, you can't keep your job. Excuse me. And a lot of times, I think people think that, well, another opportunity will come along, so it's not that serious, right? And what I've learned over time and over years is when someone says it's not that serious, just understand that they're just not going to get that far in that particular pursuit. Maybe they'll get far in another pursuit, but the thing that they're saying is not that serious, they're almost always going to lose that thing. Okay? Because that attitude of complacency and mediocrity invites failure. Okay? People don't set out to fail. Failure is often a product of neglect, right? People fail because they neglect something. People fail because they forget about something or they didn't have it taken care of ahead of time. You don't game plan ideally in the game, right? You game plan before the game. And if you have to make adjustments, you do, but that shouldn't be the rule. You shouldn't be adjusting the entire game, because if you're adjusting the entire game, then that means that the plan wasn't that great to begin with, right? And so when you don't plan for your time, when you don't plan for your work, task, and projects, when you don't plan for your business, right? If you're in business, what's the plan to get to the desired income? Do you have a desired income? Is there an income target? Is there a time target? Because if there isn't, the likelihood is that you're not going to get there, okay? Because with planning, the time investment involved, you don't have a lot of time. Most people don't have a lot of time to waste and to mess around and to, as my mom would say, pussyfoot around. Like, you don't have time like that. You've got to make the most of your time. And the more things you have going on, the more important it is to plan. 85 to 100 hours a week in game planning, to me, is insane. That doesn't, I'm still trying to calculate that. I'm still trying to understand how people can do that. But these coaches understand that I've got to invest the time. They got to invest the time to think of every possible scenario that can happen. Every possible scenario. Do you have a contingency plan if certain things don't go the way that you are hoping they go or expecting them to go, right? If you're in a situation at work where a project has to be done by a certain date, do you have a contingency plan if along the way that milestone is missed, right? A good preparation strategy would be to have the email ready if the deadline is missed, if the target day is missed, right? And to get ahead of it before you get there is even better. But how many times were you taught that? How many times were you shown that growing up or going through your professional life? I can tell you that it's rare for me. Like, maybe one or two people have said that, but it doesn't matter whether you learned it early or you're learning it late. Most people learn through mistakes. And so when you miss a deadline, when you miss a target, then you got to adapt. Those are the in-game adjustments that you have to make. And you got to say, okay, from here on out, I'm not giving a project to another person, including myself, without a target date, without a milestone date. If there's no milestone date, there's no target date, the likelihood is that it's going to take longer than it should. Okay? And it's not even that people are intentional in being wasteful or just not making a deadline, they're not intentionally missing deadlines. It just happens because everybody is busy. So the game plan has to incorporate a target date, right? You gotta have a game plan. You gotta spend the time. You gotta invest the time. Again, I'm not telling you spend 100 hours, but spend some time to game plan your week, to game plan your work life, and also your home life. Game plan your relationships, your health, your finances. What's the game plan, right? You got to game plan it because if you don't, I'm telling you, you're inviting chaos, you're inviting failure. Okay. If it's not 100 hours, and again, not encouraging you to do that, maybe start with 5. Maybe start with 3 hours a week where you're game planning everything out so that when Monday morning comes, you're prepared for as much as possible. There are certain things you can't prepare for, but if you can prepare for the known, you will have the confidence to deal with the unknown. Okay. So thank you so much for listening. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll talk to you soon.